local bands there on a weeknight, you're going to see probably at least 50 people.
Yeah.
Which is amazing, right?
Yeah,
Like,
for real. Yeah.
Hopefully, like, big rock stars aren't listening to this being like, 50 people.
Yeah, time to turn this podcast
I don't even have that on my guest list. Yeah.
As I can adjust things on the fly, but
Now, do you kind of keep it close like that, or should I keep it like here? Or?
yeah, like whatever is comfortable. I know I normally will do it like this.
Okay.
Because it kind of just sits into my chin here.
Yeah.
But,
Okay. That works.
Some people are down here, but then yeah, whatever works.
Yeah, this is good.
Yeah. Sounds good. You ready to rock?
Let's do it.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for tuning in. This is the Scoped Exposure podcast live in the undergrounds of Toronto. Super excited to be sitting down with a good homie and good drummer from Toronto. How about you introduce yourself?
Adam Cameron. I play drums in Cold Shoulder and reside here actually just outside of Toronto.
Yeah. And shout out to my parents for allowing us to record in their garage.
Yep.
I think the original plan was to record this at the show that we're headed to in the next hour or so, but I actually went to a show earlier this month, and it was just louder, and I had planned to record there, but I was like, this is probably going to be bad news, so opted for this. It kind of fits with the gray background, which what we're normally up to anyways.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So Adam and I know one another. I guess our friendship is like a pretty fresh, I guess, within the last, we were like chatting with one another online, but met officially when we were down for Snow and Flurry, and you guys were playing that. So obviously lots of people who are either listening or watching because of Cold Shoulder. So how about you tell me about kind of like the band's origins and maybe how you got into like playing live music, because I went back in time and it seemed like you've been playing drums for well over 10 years, it seems.
Yeah. I originally started playing guitar in like grade 6, grade 7, and then I switched to bass in grade 9. And then when my music teacher would leave the class in grade 9, my friend played drums. I'd be like, hey man, can I snag your sticks? I want to try these bad boys.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I picked up this beat, and I was like, oh yeah, I need drums. So I bugged my parents. Luckily, my dad used to play drums back when he was younger, so he was like, cool. So they helped me get a CB kit, which I think everyone's
classic
first drum.
Yeah. And
then some friends from high school, we started going to shows, kind of got into metal music and metalcore and stuff like that, started going to shows, and a couple of my best friends from high school were like, hey, let's start a band. And I mean, not everybody's first band in high school is amazing. Yeah. So it was, we don't really want to talk about that one too much.
Yeah, most people are like, let's just shove that under the rug. But super key to kind of like figure out how to write songs, how to be in a band with other dudes or girls or whoever.
Yep.
But yeah, so Cold Shoulder is like, when did you guys like officially come out? Like
2016.
Okay, cool.
2016. Yeah. And Ryan and I played in a band together, which broke up in the beginning of 2015. And then Mike and Jeff, they also played in bands within the area. That's how we all knew each other.
Playing shows
from
together.
Playing shows around here, around Toronto, the GTA. So Ryan and I were like, hey, we still want to keep doing this, but like, he plays bass and I play drums, and we're like, we need a guitar player and maybe a singer or something. And we ended up at a show talking to Jeff, and he came over for a jam, and he was the one that was like, hey, I was talking to Mike. Mike played in a band called Heartless, who I got to put a plug in here. They just re-recorded an EP and be releasing that. So it's really cool.
Cool. Shout out Heartless.
Shout out Heartless.
Are they releasing it themselves or
Yep.
doing it under something?
As far as I know, they're releasing it themselves. They just put a single out, and it was like Mike's band from I want to say back in the day, basically before Cold Shoulder.
Right.
But then they all kind of split off and went to university and stuff. So now they're all done, and they all kind of jump back on it, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome.
Kind of a blast from the past in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I used to love that band. Actually, I looked back on a message when I first messaged Mike on Facebook. I saw a message I sent to him back in 2000 and whatever, being like, "Hey man, does Heartless want to play some shows with us?"
I love that.
And,
you know, the way that the internet will just keep record of certain things.
Yeah.
Like whether you're like messaging someone and you're like, I remember I sent a message to someone. I'm like, yeah, so do you still want to do this? And they were like, nah. And then I'm like, just the message prior to that is like, I'm literally down for whatever, whenever. Oh, funny how things change like that. But
yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So like, something that I wanted to ask you is like, what most people would know is like, you're doing a hefty amount of the vocals in Cold Shoulder while you're playing drums. Did that kind of like start when you first were playing in bands? So it was any band that you were playing in is like, oh, by the way, I'm also gonna do some vocals in this band as well.
I was I did vocals in a band back in Brampton back in probably 2000 and I want to say like 11 or 12. But it was just kind of like just a couple of my friends. It was like more of like just a fun thing. And then something I always wanted to do. And then one day, Cold Shoulder started as a 5-piece. And so we originally had another guitar player, a good friend of ours, still a good friend of ours named Mitch. He was doing backup vocals. And then one day we were practicing and there was just a mic set up beside me. So I was just like joking around doing stuff. And then they were kind of like, hey, why don't you just like do some vocals? And I was like, I don't know if I can, because it's pretty hard to play drums, do vocals.
Right.
But then I just added more and more and more. And then Mitch stepped down. And
was Mitch doing vocals?
He was primarily doing the backup vocals.
Oh, I see. So him leaving allowed you to kind of fill that void in a way.
Well, yeah, they're kind of like, hey, you're up. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And
you had no choice.
No, and I like it now. It's fun. But I will say, when I go to record, when we record, I have to like sit down to do vocals,
right?
Because I'm so used to it. When I stand up, like it sounds weird. And
like interesting.
Yeah, it's like so I got to like pretend like I'm, I guess, sitting down and playing drums.
Are you writing your drum parts kind of around the vocals, or are you just like, I'm gonna play this and then hopefully I can do the vocals over top of it?
So we kind of have an interesting way. Jeff writes all of our music. Mm-hmm. He's the brains behind, I'd say, Cold Shoulder. He writes drums. He writes guitar, bass. Then Mike writes vocals. So Mike and I help Mike sometimes with patterns.
Yeah.
But he writes the vocals, and then he'll be like, hey, like, you know, I want you to do some of these lines and stuff like that. So I'll just be like, okay. And usually I can figure it out with playing. Mm-hmm. So I don't really do any of the writing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because I know like at the time of recording this podcast, like, you know, Code Orange is a big band, and they kind of like unofficially announced through like one of their videos that like Morgan was like stepping like away from the drums and fully taking on the front man or front person position, which arguably was, you know, I'm a fan of that band, and I think that was the one maybe step that band could have taken to like really take their live shows to the next level. Yeah. I was thinking about it, but it does, you know, I did like that aspect of having, you know, the leads, like Jamie doing being the kind of the lead singer, as you call it, on drums. But man, that song is so cool. It's so good. Yeah, it's very good. I think a lot of people were knocking on them for the first single that they put out. Yeah. And I'm like, I've seen this 1,000 times where bands will like put out something a little bit more radio friendly, and then the next song is just like a kick in the face. So that video. Yeah. Shout out. Man. I'm trying to remember the dude who puts those videos together. I think it's
Michael Bay.
Yeah.
With all the explosions.
That would actually be so insane. Yeah, that's sick. Yeah, because I've always liked, drummers who have that vocal aspect as well, like, Jamie being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to think of, were there any bands that you, like when you started to play drums, did you ever think that you'd be like, yeah, it'd be cool to be like this drummer who also is doing vocals? Or
Atreyu, man.
That's true, yeah. Atreyu is a big one.
I don't know if I don't know. He had the headpiece, which I don't know if I could really get behind. Right. But
totally forgot about the headpiece. That's hilarious.
No, I would say he was probably the first. I like metalcore back in the day, man, and he was probably the first drummer I saw like do vocals, which
I guess like the Rev 2, like in Avenged, like that. He was like doing a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yep.
All the laughs.
Yep.
Yeah. That's so sick. Cool. So let's just talk about the Toronto scene. Because like obviously most people know that Scoped is like a, Western Canada is like well within our brand, and it's super cool to like be out here to film a show later, but also like chat with you. And the only other like Eastern Canada like show that I filmed to date was like New Friends Fest, and that wasn't even necessarily like a hardcore festival. It was like more like screamo bands and emo bands.
Yep.
So yeah, like tell me about how like what your process was like getting into music here, because like it is a super big city, and I think there was like, I come from like a smaller city, and Calgary's a lot bigger, so that felt like a big jump for me. But something I learned with other friends who have moved here is that like, yes, it's a larger city, but it's almost like there's more like competition for certain things, not necessarily in music, but like for jobs and opportunities. So I'm kind of just curious on what your experience is.
You said it best with like I don't use competition, but there's so much going on here that if people have the option, hey, there's a punk show or a hardcore show, cool. Oh, but there's also 15 other things going on tonight.
Right.
And that in a sense kind of takes away from shows sometimes.
Right.
But I mean, I'm sure other major cities have that issue too. But other than that, it's been, I mean, I'm not from Toronto. I'm from north of Toronto. I used to go to shows in Brampton.
Right.
Who back in the day used to have a wicked scene. And is coming back. There's shows in Brampton again. My friend Kyle's putting on shows there.
Yeah.
So Toronto is like, there's a lot going on. But I feel like right now more than ever it's really picking up. It's really booming. A lot of people are going out to shows. There's a lot of new bands, a lot of different promoters. And it's cool. Like it's cool. Like I just saw a show pop up, Bugging Out's coming up. Sick. And
that's sick.
Yeah, and then I just discovered, some new bands from Toronto from that show, and I'm like, oh, this is cool, and stuff like that. Like I'm like, hey, I see a lot of new stuff popping up. I'm like, this is, which maybe to me it's new, but maybe to some other people are like, oh, this is new. This person's been putting on shows for a while, but
yeah.
So a lot going on up here. It's really good.
So you growing up outside the city, what was your like initial exposure to going? Like, were you first going to shows in Brampton? Like that was kind of the first thing, and then I'm just kind of curious what your experience was going to your first show in a small city or bigger town, and then going to like a bigger show like in Toronto.
Yeah. So the first, I'm not going to count like concerts.
Right.
Because like I think Blink-182 at the Molson Amphitheater was probably like my first.
Anything that's like under like $15 counts as a show. Anything over that is more of a concert. Yeah.
But the first shows I went to were in Brampton or Caledon, which is where I'm from. And even then, that was probably 100 plus people. It was really cool. All local bands.
Yeah. Do you remember any of those bands?
Yeah, it was a band called Fuck the Facts.
Oh, I know that band, yeah.
a band called Hello Beautiful, a band called M Code, and then some close friends of ours who we later on joined bands together. One band was called Under Amber Skies, and the other band was called Camden Ripper. Wow, this is taking me back. I remember that show. It was cool. It was at the Hype. It was, and there I was just like, this is so cool. Now I grew up in the country, so we didn't have internet. Like you couldn't get internet out there. So when it came to finding out about shows, I had to whatever my friends were going to.
Right.
They'd be like, "Hey, there's this show. Do you want to go?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
Were they like texting you essentially, or
it was at school? They'd be like,
"Oh, at school,"
or
that makes sense.
Or I think on my Motorola flip phone they'd text me.
Yeah.
And
T9 them back.
T9 them back.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the first, I would say the first bigger show I went to in Toronto was at the Opera House, and it was actually probably one of the first more hardcore bands I saw was Walls at Jericho. And they played with a Wilhelm screen and the Fully Down.
Cool.
And I think, and Bullet for My Valentine.
Tears Don't Fall.
Tears Don't Fall.
So sick.
And that was probably my first like bigger Toronto show I went to.
Yeah.
And I was like,
man, what a weird bill. Like,
yeah. And that's actually how. So my friends at the time were like, listen to this band Bullet for My Valentine. I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, they're playing the show. And I remember seeing the flyer and I was like, I went on Kazaa and I wanted to download listen to the other bands that are playing.
Right.
And I downloaded All Hail the Dead by Walls of Jericho. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, what is this? And so that kind of, really got me into heavier music and more hardcore music. And that was cool. And then going to shows in Toronto, we used to have this venue in Toronto called Siesta Nouveau, which was probably about the size of this garage. I saw like
I'd love to see a show in this size of a place.
It was cool, man. Defeater, the first time they came to Canada, played there. I remember going to that show and I was like, yeah, it was cool. It was cool, and it still is really cool in Toronto. We've lost some venues. We lost Siesta, but more are popping up. I don't know. It's a cool city.
Yeah,
especially for music.
Yeah, and it's always like for me, like growing up in Winnipeg and now living in Calgary, like the West, like often gets skipped when it comes to like, it's like a North American tour, but it's like dips up to Toronto
and Vancouver.
And Vancouver. But like I can be like empathetic, I guess, to the, booking agents and the promoters who are like, okay, so like we have this tour and it only routes this way. And it's like, oh, well, if we do dip up here, we can play one show or go to Montreal as well and do another show. But, it is a tasking thing for any band to come up through the Dakotas and then to Winnipeg and then all the way out. Because once you're that far deep, it's like, well, the next city is 8 hours away. So, that's a big reason why I started Scoped is like to put the light on our provinces a little bit more. But that's obviously like evolved a lot to like, coming out to here to do shows and things like that.
I hope people that are listening understand where you are in relation to Toronto.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I literally messaged someone yesterday. Someone was asking if I was coming down to Promcore in May.
Yeah.
So depending on when you listen to that, it's a fest in Oklahoma. And they were just asking if I'd come down. Like, yeah, come down with the Cold Shoulder guys. I'm like, Calgary and Toronto are very far apart, brother. Like 3 days drive just to hook up with them to drive probably 3 more days. I don't know if you're going to Promcore anyways. So.
No, unfortunately not.
Yeah.
I wish I love it down there. I love that fest.
Yeah. Did you go last year? Did you play last year?
We played the year before, I think. No, did we play last year or the year before? I can't remember.
I don't think last year, because I watched most of the videos that Sonny filmed last year, and I don't remember seeing you.
Yeah, we played the year before.
Gotcha.
We played the year before. The same year as the second flyover. We played both those. But we couldn't make it down. Aaron moved Promcore to the spring,
right?
Which is hard for me because the work I do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really busy, and also, I'm gonna be a dad here soon in the spring. So
and I want to talk about that. I think
the lights are going out.
The lights are going out. Let
we
me
lost
just stand
the lights.
up. Let me see.
Is it motion?
I don't know. This has never happened. Okay.
There we go.
Let me just open this door. Okay. Might have to do that every
That's okay.
20 minutes. That's too funny. And the lights are going.
The lights
out.
are on.
Yeah. So you're gonna be a dad.
Yep.
Very soon here.
Yeah. So Aaron actually, who puts on Promcore, very good friend of ours. He reached out to us about Promcore, asking if we wanted to play, and I was like, "Hey, man, listen, no can do.
Yeah.
Appreciate it though."
Daddy calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's,
yeah. So do you know if you're having a boy or a girl?
yeah, it's a girl.
Very cool.
Yeah, very excited.
Yeah.
Very, very excited. Yeah.
And it's your partner,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
How pregnant is she?
She just started her third trimester. So she's due May 21st.
Wow, that's awesome! Congrats officially.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm pumped.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe that's something, because we talked a little bit about that like prior to when I was coming out, just about like, that being a very like, this is gonna be your first kid. It's a very like kind of daunting thing. So like, balancing that with the busyness of the band, because I went back in time and you guys like toured pretty, frequently throughout the year. Been to a lot of different places. So how was that? How was that balance for you? Like finding, having that personal life, that like new chapter that's coming up, and how does that translate with being in the band? Because
well, it actually came at a very, I would say, convenient time with the band, because we did do a lot of touring in the past, and it really kind of took a toll on us, because it's all DIY and we're out there losing money and I mean, having a good time, but losing money. And something we all kind of discussed was like, hey, we need to just think about the next tour we do, and if the finances are there and stuff like that. And Jeff actually, he moved away. He lives in Windsor now, which is about 4 hours from here.
Yeah.
So we were all kind of talking like, we need to, I guess, take quality over quantity when it comes to touring and shows. So like maybe instead of doing like 2 weeks, we can do like 1 week of like maybe bigger cities or something like that.
Yeah.
Or even just weekend runs. Like weekend runs are awesome, and it's not too far for us to get into the States or even play some gigs up here. Depends obviously what time they listen to this, but we're doing a weekend with Purgatory and Prowl.
Yeah.
Which would be cool.
Very jealous that I can't film that.
I mean, you can if you want to come back
so.
out.
Yeah, that's true.
So more, we kind of had that agreement, and then when I found out I was going to be a dad, I was a little bit hesitant to tell my band, because like I was scared. I didn't want them to be like, oh, our band's done.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Caitlin, my partner, she's was like, your band's not done. Like, you know, like I want you to keep going. But she was just like, just respect that you can't just be leaving for tour all the time.
Right.
And I said, totally. Like,
yeah.
But then at the same time, that wasn't our plan anyways. Like we wanted to slow it down. So when I told my band, they were super happy for me. And I basically was like, let's still gig. I just got to take some time the first few months, obviously.
Yeah.
Get it settled in.
And there's like ebbs and flows, like, especially I think you were mentioning you were talking with one of the dudes in Rust.
Yeah, Rick.
Yeah. Rick was like, yeah, definitely in the first 2 months, like you're going to be like at the house or whatever, like you're going to be home. Yeah. But, after that, there starts to build a little bit of a routine. Yep. And then, I'm saying this like not being a dad myself, but like I have a pretty energetic dog. So like, when we first got him, it was like, oh man, like can't really leave Bryn with him alone. So there's ebbs and flows, and it sounds like it just the stars aligned just right.
It honestly did, and I couldn't be more grateful for it. Yeah. Just the way everything was, it all kind of came together, and because it's scary, right? Like you
Yeah.
think like, what the fuck am I getting
I
into?
have to have a small human that I have to make sure doesn't die. Like,
Yeah.
every day.
And then you start talking to people like Rick or some friends and family, and you know, even like the way my band took it, and it's just kind of like, yeah, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be really good. Like,
Yeah.
hell yeah. So
Yeah. Have to make like baby size for some of the cultural shoulder merch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I've always kind of thought too, like if I ever became a dad, about like how I would like slowly introduce like like I guess our genre of music to my offspring or whatever. I don't know if that's crossed your mind yet.
100%. Thankfully, Caitlin, my partner, she likes hardcore music and punk music and stuff like that.
Yeah.
She likes other stuff too. That's not like all she listens to, but
yeah. Or neither probably you or I is like only listening.
Exactly. Yeah. So I even told her, I'm like, when she's old enough to walk, she's coming to shows.
Yeah, yeah, that's so key.
And
I know a dude back in Calgary, like he started bringing his daughter to shows. He's like, dude, this is weird.
Yeah.
Like I was coming to shows and I like never thought I'd be a dad, and now she's like, yeah, like this band sounds like this, and you're like,
what?
Yeah, it's crazy. So that's very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wanted to jump back to drums, because it sounded like your dad was like, you know, pretty supportive of like, yep, I get it. Like I know what having drums in the house means, and you know I want to empower that.
Yeah.
How's your kind of like setup? Like, are you kind of like a gear nerd when it comes to like drums, or you're just like, does this thing sound okay, or is it loud? Then yeah,
I was like, I spent like all like out of high school, I got a job, and I just worked a lot, so I didn't really get to go to the music store and buy a bunch of stuff as much as I wanted. I was focusing on like, I don't know, rushing to be an adult, I guess. I don't really know why I did it. It pays off now because I have like a good job, I guess. But I always kind of wanted to be a gear nerd. But I definitely, if I saw a kit I liked, I kind of worked for it and got it. Like I remember after my CB kit, I saw the Yamaha Stage Custom, the matte black finish, and I was like, which it really was only like probably a $600-700 kit.
right.
But I was like, I love this finish. Like it's matte black. It's so cool. And I was probably like 17 or something, or 18.
Right.
So I was like, worked my part-time job, saved up, and got that kit. And then I saw a Gretsch kit, the Gretsch Broadcaster, which I loved, where I took lessons. And so sort of kind of a short story here, but the guy Jason that sold it to me, I kept asking him every week, like, how much is it? How much is it? And finally he's like, just give me this much for it. You can make payments on it. I was like,
right.
Yes. So I got this Gretsch kit. And then Jason went on to start a company called Vamped, building snare drums.
Okay.
So he built me a snare drum, and I loved it. I still have it. He ended up, I kept bugging about building a kit. He's like, I don't know. And with the way the economy went and importing stuff up here, it kind of came expensive for him. Plus, he had a full-time job as well.
Right.
So he kind of stopped doing it. But then he hits me up a couple years ago and was like, I actually hit him up. I was like, man, you ever going to build me that kit? And he goes, well, actually, he's only ever built 2. And he was like, my buddy just gave me this back because he got a Sonar endorsement. Do you want to buy this one off me? And I was like, done.
Perfect.
On my way. So I have a custom kit built by Jason by Vamped Drums, which I've been bugging him to build more. But yeah, that's kind of how that went. And
and he's still doing stuff today, I'm guessing.
Who, Jason?
Yeah.
You know what? The last I talked to him, I was like, hey man, like, because actually Mason from Mouth for War, he asked me about it, and I was like, I'll ask Jason right now. And he was kind of like, I don't know, man. He's got a lot on his plate, and plus he plays in a band too, and he then works his job and stuff like that. So and the importing gets pricey, right?
Yeah. Well, definitely shout out Vamped.
Yeah.
Drums. And
Jason.
yeah. If you're into it, like maybe send him this clip from the podcast. Or
Absolutely.
Something. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sweet. So jumping back from drums back to just like the Ontario scene. Because one thing that I've always admired, because I have family that live here now, and even when you were like, oh yeah, Port Credit's like close to me, and then when I asked, you're like, yeah, it's a 40-minute drive.
Yeah,
I was like, wow. So just the fact that there are so many other small cities that are within an hour and a half, 30 minutes. Do you think that that's a great asset for this province for people to like go to multiple shows? Because sometimes in Winnipeg it was like there's nothing around here unless you want to rip down to Fargo on a weekend to catch like Swing Low. But
shout out Swing Low
for real. But living in Calgary now, Edmonton's like a 3-hour drive. So it was only last weekend that like my band ripped up there, played a show, ripped back the same night.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, you're crazy. I'm like, oh, it's just what you have to do.
Yeah.
So kind of curious if you've had some of those like, we're just going to rip down to, Oshawa or Cambridge or whatever.
Man, back in the day, you used to be able to drive half hour to an hour to a different city and play a show. Like you could do like, I would say probably 12 Ontario dates on a tour.
Yeah. Wow.
Back in probably like early to mid 2000s. Mm-hmm. You could go Toronto, Brampton, Guelph, Kitchener, Hamilton, London, Sarnia, Windsor. Like you could just make literally a
and every
10-day
show
tour.
Would be like
every
bumping.
show would be bumping.
Yeah.
Obviously, like things change, venues close, whatever. People get older, stop going to shows.
Yeah.
But still, I would say London, Ontario probably has one of the better scenes that I've ever had a chance to play. It's super cool. A lot of people come out. I mean, local bands there on a weeknight, you're going to see probably at least 50 people. Yeah. Which is amazing, right?
Yeah,
like,
for real. Yeah.
Hopefully, like, big rock stars aren't listening to this being like, 50 people.
Yeah, time to turn this podcast
I don't even have that on my guest list.
I don't think anyone's that big who's listening to this. Unless you are, then let me know, and then maybe we can figure something out. But that's so true. Like, when I first started getting into the music scene, Winnipeg, you could do like a prairie like tour and go to like Altona and like Riverton and Winkler and just all these Steinbach and Selkirk and all these random little towns, and there would be like 100 people there, and you're like, what's going on?
Yep.
And but like you said, like promoters are key, venues are key for those things to happen. Yep. I'm kind of curious because we're gonna roll to the show right after this, and Rust, who's another Ontario or Toronto band, I guess.
They're scattered around. They're Ontario.
Yeah. But they're doing a little run, and they're doing like Windsor and things like that, and seeing a couple photos. And I've just heard from like friends of mine who have like rolled the dice and gone to like a weird part of the country in a small town. They're like, yeah, the show was awesome. Mm-hmm. And I even heard from shout out Tyler from Plead, because they went and they played a couple shows on Vancouver Island, not just
hell yeah.
Yeah. So
that's
like,
cool.
And he was like, honestly, man, like, even though maybe some of the shows were like in a weird setting, like it's a bar kind of gig or something, like we made tons of money on merch because so many people were just like, yo, thank you for coming to like
Nanaimo?
They did play in Nanaimo, but there was like another one that they played.
Tell me they played Tofino.
They did not play Tofino.
That'd be so cool.
Man, that would be cool.
Love that place.
All these like, have you been to Tofino?
Yeah, it's amazing.
We went not last summer, 2 summers ago, and I'm just like, this place feels like magical.
It's magical, man.
It is.
The whole island's magical.
If anyone's listening from Tofino, let me know in the comments, because if anyone's out there,
and buy me a plane ticket out there.
Yeah, for real. I'm surprised. Like, you were just out there for like vacay?
Yeah, my girlfriend and I were just like, hey, let's take a trip. And we were actually going to do like Vancouver. And then a guy I used to work with was like, dude, just go to the island, man. That's all you need.
Yeah.
And I was like, come on. He's like, no, that's all you need.
It's just different.
And then, we flew into Victoria and just spent a couple of days there, hit some parks, and then drove up to Nanaimo, got some Nanaimo bars,
Yeah.
and then drove out to Tofino and spent a couple nights there.
Yeah.
Visited some friends out there.
Yeah. No, it's really cool. I've been to both Tofino and Victoria now, and it's like, man, just like it's just a different way, a different speed.
Different
I think
speed,
is the
man.
best way.
Yeah.
Well, especially in Toronto, it's like I have friends who have moved here. It's like, yeah, some people are just like they'll just like blow right past you and like knock you down if you're in their way.
The GTA is a rat race, man.
Yeah.
Right. This is like sorry, I'm gonna sound like a 50-year-old here, but like this is like your economic hub to Canada, right?
Right.
So it's just a race to make money around here. It's a race. Everything's just going 100 mile an hour at all times.
Yeah.
It's literally a rat race around here.
Yeah.
No one has any chill.
No chill. Do you find that with like music as well? Like, cause I guess I'm not sure what the list of like bigger active bands from Toronto are. Like the ones that come to mind for me are like Counterparts, I guess, is like a Toronto band.
Yeah, they're Hamilton, but whatever.
Yeah.
People listening may not know where Hamilton is. It's like an hour from Toronto.
Yeah. Maybe they've just been absorbed just due to the scale.
Yeah.
Of the size of their band. But
Mil-Spec.
Is Exalt still a band?
They're kind of like all individually doing their own things. As far as I know, I talk to Tim quite often, and they're like, yeah, they're not like done. They're not broken up. They have personal lives right now.
Yeah.
That they're tackling.
Hidden snooze.
Yeah, they're kind of just, and I know they put out a single. I guess it was a while ago now, but not too long ago. I guess it feels like.
Right.
And as far as I know, I think they were planning on putting some more tunes out. But I think when the time's right.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Yeah.
We all get that point where you gotta tackle life.
Yeah. But like I've talked with other bands too, where it's like I would much rather prefer your band not like break my heart, so to speak, and break up. And it's just like, we're just like, we're taking some time, kind of, there's no shame in that to be like, yeah, like so-and-so's doing this, but like, we're going to just hang out,
That's kind of what we discussed with Cold Shoulder. It's like, let's do like a weekend in the spring, which we're going to do. Mm-hmm. And then let's just chill. Let's see how this baby thing goes. And maybe in the fall, let's see what we can do. And, and we have a record that's pretty much fully written that we got to record. So that's something we're going to spend time doing. And, it's kind of just, we even said like breaking up's not an option. Like there's no point. We enjoy this. We want to do this. We just need to chill for a bit. Yeah. Right.
Let's chat about that. So the most recent thing that you guys have put out is a single called Loudmouth, on Safe Inside Records. Yep. And, that will eventually be a track off of a full length.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So did you want to talk about that, or do you kind of want to?
Yeah. No. Yeah. So we basically came to the agreement to let's put a record out. Hey Jeff, write us some songs.
I'm surprised that he writes everything.
Yeah.
Is he just like I can find some connection with that for me, because like when I'm writing guitar riffs, have in mind like the drums should sound like this.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a beast. He's not human.
Yeah. Just like output songs like a printer.
Yeah, and he also I got another plug here.
Sure.
He hand builds guitar pedals, custom guitar pedals.
Oh, and very cool.
I think he's getting into. I know he hand built his head, his guitar head, and his cab.
Wow.
So not only does he write the music, he literally physically makes it.
Jeez, that's actually insane.
So his company's called Almantone. Got to plug that in there.
Almantone? How do you spell that?
ELLMANTONE. Almantone.
Because for me, I'd be like ALP. Like
yeah, it's his last name, Jeff.
Oh,
Jeff
gotcha.
Allman.
Cool. Well, shout out to Jeff.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out for myself, because I'm not necessarily like super geared nerdy, but I worked for a music company in Winnipeg for a time, and would sling gear to young teens who wanted to rip riffs.
Yeah.
And I always loved pedals, because I loved being able to be like, oh, what sound's gonna get out of this.
Yeah.
But my setup right now is very, very bare bones. But if there was something that was like, okay, I need that on my board, so definitely check that out. So he's written everything.
Yep.
and you guys are just in the process of recording it.
Yeah, so we've demoed basically, like I'm sure most bands do. You kind of write the song, do a demo, go over it, add vocals. Okay, cool. Then go in and do the actual recording.
Right.
So we've demoed 3 of the songs, I think, and then I'm actually supposed to go do some pre-pro drums. Lights going out.
That's okay. Come back.
Stay
Come
on.
back. Can I do this?
It's only when I talk. Am I that boring?
No, it's fine.
Am I putting your house to bed when I talk?
You're all good.
I'm supposed to go do some pre-pro drums this week. Just like some scratch stuff. And then Jeff will do his guitars.
Yep.
Then Michael add some vocals, and we'll go hit the studio. And
who are you guys planning to record with?
we're going to go with a friend of ours. His name's Davis Maxwell.
Okay.
He is out in a place called Fort Erie, which is basically just over the border of Buffalo, New York, which
okay, cool.
I know some of your listeners will know where Buffalo is.
Shout out to Buffalo. I've been to Buffalo once.
Yep.
Visited some family.
And then left.
We literally dipped down to see the Sabres play the Jets.
Oh, nice.
And it was crucial timing because Kane was just traded to them, so it was seeing them in enemy territory, and they won. Go Jets! Yeah, but that's cool.
I don't know if I get behind that, but that's fine.
No, that's fine. Are you a Leafs fan?
Of course.
Oh, I guess you have to be.
No, you don't have to be.
That's true. But I
was
guess
just raised properly.
Well, a big thing for me, I'm a firm believer of if you're a fan of a team that's from your hometown, and your hometown team sucks, that's the true grind. Yeah. Because then there's so many people who will I like, Steph Curry. Yeah. They don't like, Golden State.
Golden State, yeah.
Versus being I've been a New York Jets fan for 15 years, and all years they've sucked, but the climb to getting to.
Dude, I'm a diehard Jacksonville Jaguars fan, which most people that I've met on the road probably realize that because I wear a lot of their gear.
Yeah. So this is funny. Before you came here, I was looking on your Facebook, and it said sports, and it said Jacksonville. Yeah. And I was just there's a story there. So I'm glad how organically that came up, and I didn't have to so Jacksonville.
Yeah. NFL Game Day 2004 for PlayStation, the original PlayStation.
Cool.
Or was it 2002? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. One of those.
I was like, hey, what's this game? Football's cool. And Jacksonville, they were ranked 98.
Oh.
And I was like, this team's obviously good. And then I remember I came downstairs one day, and we had antenna living in the country. We didn't have cable.
Right.
And it was a Jaguars game. And I was like, no way.
They're they're real.
They're real. Yeah. And I watched it, and I was like, it's pretty cool. And then started playing football in high school, and started watching more of it, and
oh, that's sick.
Eventually got satellite TV.
Yeah. And, what position did you play?
So I played outside linebacker and defensive end. I preferred defensive end, but there was always a senior that played defensive end, so I never got to until my final year. And then
until you were the senior.
Until I was a senior. So I was so they put me at outside linebacker, which I didn't like, and I was really bad at because I'm slow. But it was weird. But yeah, when it came to sports, I was too skinny to be a lineman, but too slow to be anything else.
There's a weird vertigo in between there. That's crazy. And I love that aspect of of how hardcore eventually had that just that physical aggressive mentality, especially if you're playing a sport like football, just jumping on a bunch of dudes, and you're yep, this is normal.
I played rugby for 7 years, I think, and went overseas in that, and I literally stopped playing rugby because I didn't want to get hurt so I could play shows.
You're I don't want to mess things up.
Yeah,
that's funny. Are you still playing anything sports wise now, or?
Yeah. So I was playing hockey, just like beer league, men's league hockey. Because, for our American listeners, that's what you do when you live in Canada. Everybody plays hockey.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I actually play flag football, which is I play that once a week.
Wow.
Which is a lot of fun.
You're so athletic.
I'm not athletic. A lot of people are like, flag football, really? I'm like, dude, we all got jobs to go to, man.
That's fair.
You try getting rocked and tackle.
Yeah.
And actually, a lot of people that play are like ex-college players and stuff like that now have careers and wives and kids and whatever.
Yeah.
So they're like, they can't afford to get hurt. So
yeah. Yeah.
So.
I have a friend who, I think he just retired. He used to play for the Manitoba Bisons.
Oh, yeah?
Shout out to Reed. I got a text from his brother. I was playing a show, and he was like, "Hey, I told my brother to go to this hardcore show. He doesn't know anybody. Can you like say what's up?" Yeah. I was like, yeah, for sure. Like, what's he look like? He's like, he's probably the biggest dude there. And I like scan. I'm just standing outside, and I see this one dude just like absolutely just jacked and just like standing by himself. I'm like, that's
definitely him. Yeah.
But now he's just like, he loves hardcore. Like, he's like listening to more bands that like I can keep up with, and just like pits for every band. Like, he's a real one. So
that's sick.
But I was like, it was cool to see him play, but it's also weird with like sports on how like short like careers are in a way.
Yeah.
Like, you think it's the best to like play a professional sport, but then it's like, it's over at like.
It's sad. It's honestly sad, man.
Yeah.
I'm a diehard sports fan, and see these kids get drafted 20 years old, and some of them by 27 they're done. And it's like it's sad, and then they don't know what to do.
So Jacksonville, Leafs,
Blue Jays, Raptors.
Yeah, cool. So the reading for everyone in the home team or hometown minus
NFL, obviously.
NFL,
but everyone up here, they're like either Buffalo fans or a lot of Patriots fans. Everyone's a Patriots fan.
Who's the CFL team here?
Oh, the Argos. I don't watch CFL though.
Yeah, that's fair.
I know you guys probably do because.
No, but shout out to Curtis. He's like the diehard Blue Bombers fan.
Yeah,
that I know. Has been cheering again, going back to that whole like cheering for a team, like despite the shortcomings and like watching them grow. Like, they just won the Grey Cup, and I've been like watching him like rip out to Regina by himself to like watch them play like the Riders. I'm like,
diehard.
I'm like, I can't wait till like the Blue Bombers take the cup home. So like, shout out to Curtis. He's a good homie. Sweet. I didn't think we were going to be so sporty on this podcast, so that's very cool.
Is that cool? You're a big sports fan?
I do like sports. I think because of my passions and my lifestyle, I don't have time to like fully watch sports.
Yeah.
Because it is something that you like sit down and you watch, and you like, you analyze like what players are doing and what's going through their minds. Yeah. And for me, I'm like, I like to have things on the background so I can still like work. Mm-hmm. So it's tough, but
no, that's understandable. I don't get to watch a whole lot. I usually sit down, and it's getting close time to go to bed, or I'm winding down for the day. I'll just check like my apps,
right?
Sports Center apps, watch highlights and stuff like that.
That's fair.
But I get it.
That's I guess like that's a pretty common thing too. Just like highlights, like being able to just be like rip through a game versus like there wasn't that, and I have to watch this 2-hour long game. Yeah. But that's, if I can connect that back to like, hardcore and the video stuff that we're doing, it's like, there was always a thought at the beginning. It's like, well, if we're filming all these bands and all these sets, like, are people not gonna want to go to shows? Because it's like, I'll just watch it on Scoped after. But I know a lot of people are like, they'll see the videos and like, man, I really like missed out. Or it's like,
I want to do a front flip and get filmed
tonight.
No, like that's what people might say. I want to be on this this video channel doing a front flip off stage.
Yeah. Have you seen that meme where it's like Joey from Friends, and it's like me watching me mosh in a Hate 5-6 video? Yeah. But yeah, I do think that like, I don't know, like a classic example for me is like, I wanted to go to LDB this year, and I wasn't able to because
Oh,
usually it's like
I was so sad I didn't get to go, man.
Yeah, because it's usually like I can factor in going to a fest that I'm like that Scoped is involved in, but like just going on a little like weekend vacation in a random part of the country to see bands is like not a luxury that I can have right now.
Yeah, I feel that.
But like as soon as like Steven, shout out to Steven.
Oh yeah, love the guy.
As soon as he posted that, I'm just like, well, I done goofed. I should have gone. Like,
oh man, that whole weekend I would just seeing my friends post stuff. I'm just like,
yeah. And it's like also seeing your friends in those videos too. You're like, there's Trent, there's Wolfgang, there's like Nikki. There's so many people.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah, cool. Well, in lieu of my sister probably coming down to use the car that's right behind us, we should probably wrap up. Probably should head to the gig.
Yep.
I think we covered most things: drums, cold shoulder, baby, sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sports.
Anything else?
Look out for our record. Hopefully coming out at the end of the year on Safe Inside.
Yeah.
If all goes as planned.
Yeah, and let the guy have time with his kid.
Yeah,
because that's awesome.
If you're wondering why Cold Shoulder isn't doing anything, it's because I'm a beat dad.
Yeah, and I usually kind of wrap up the show with just like whatever is your top mosh story if you're trying to like, top the other people at a show.
Yep.
I'm sure there's a couple with your amount of shows that you've played, gone to, even if there's something that's like very Toronto in a way.
So like
that comes to mind.
Crazy show, like show what maybe I played, or
either show you played or like I saw someone do this and I was like, where am I? Like anything that like, because for me, I think about the very first time I ever went to a hardcore show and I saw people like climbing on top of one another, and it was in a basement, so all like the basement ceiling tile. I was like, whoa, what's this?
Yep.
Like, so anything that has like stuck in your memory and hasn't faded.
Oh man, honestly, I do really want to say that Snow and Flurry set we played that you filmed last. That was, I still watch that video and I'm just like, that was so cool.
Yeah.
To be a part, to have that reaction. That was probably one of the craziest shows I've ever played.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, the first time I ever kind of like crowd surfed was to Protest the Hero. Shout out their Kazaya record.
Yeah. Ribs.
And then the only time I ever broke a bone was when I jumped off stage during an Expire set, which, sorry, I used to listen to Expire.
Everyone did at one point.
And I jumped off stage and...
What bone did you break?
My wrist.
Oh.
And...
like coming down?
Yeah, I jumped and there was like a row of people up front, and because I'm so long, like their heads, I guess, like took out my knees.
Oh no.
So I went over them and down. It was more towards like where the front of the pit started.
Yeah.
So there was no one was really there. And I just kind of put my hands out and I was like, oh, that kind of hurt. And I heard people being like, oh, and I got up. I was like, just play it cool. Just play it cool. And then I'm just remember being like, fuck, this isn't cool. Yeah. Something's wrong.
Something hurts.
I went to my friends. I was like, yo, I'm going to the hospital. Something's not right. Like nothing was like gross looking, but I knew something was up.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, your ribs fractured, or your wrist is fractured. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I'd say that I'll never forget. I tell everybody I slipped on ice.
Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah. Well, that's humbling in a way to be like, yeah, that set that you filmed is like probably one of my favorite like moments, playing in a band. So that's very cool. That was a very cool set to see, especially just, a lot of the hype sets were bands that weren't even from like Minneapolis or that general area. Mm-hmm. Like I think about the Stepping Stone set, I think about your guys' set. So yeah, that's awesome. I hope that there's other opportunities in the future that we can capture your guys' band, maybe if you guys are doing a release show for your upcoming thing or whatever. Yeah.
Or a fest in the end of November, beginning of December.
That we didn't talk about, and we should touch on that. Yeah, let's explore that. So for those that don't know, Adam and the rest of the cultural guys put on a, would you call it a fest or like a show?
It was a show, but I think this year we're gonna turn it into a fest.
Yeah, called I'll let you properly introduce it.
It's just Toys for Tots.
Yeah, and it's a toy drive
Yep.
that you guys put on, and sorry I didn't. I was
That's
like about
okay,
to wrap it up. I
okay.
was like, yeah, this should be good. So yeah, it's a toy drive that you guys do, and that started 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We played. My old band played a toy drive in Detroit a few years ago, and it's something I was like, this is amazing. It's something I always wanted to do. And then a friend of mine, I was talking to him about shows, and he goes, "Why don't you just book your own show?" And I was like, oh, I could do that. And I pitched it to my band. I was like, hey, I always wanted to kind of do a toy drive. Would you guys want to book something? And we'll just like headline and get some friends to play. And they were like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
And 2 years in a row, it's been awesome.
Yeah.
Very thankful for everybody that comes out and donates.
Yeah.
And we keep it super like no pre-sales, no guest list. You bring $10 or you bring a toy.
Yeah.
And you're in.
Very simple.
Very simple.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it's a fest, the price might go up a little bit depending who we get.
Right.
But yeah.
So, and I want to touch on this because always thought this was interesting. So the first year you did it, the headline was you guys, Sedition.
Yep.
Trying to remember the other bands.
Gold Route from Michigan.
Right.
Which is a pop punk band.
Cool.
And Premonition from Ottawa and Mourn from Kitchener.
Gotcha. Yeah. And then the interesting thing that I saw is that year you guys flew out sunny to film it.
Yep.
And I was just kind of curious, like we talked about it, like what the thought process was behind that, but was that an idea that you guys had as soon as you did it, or was it like, hey, it would be cool to like have someone out here to like capture this?
So we were on tour with War Prayer and Fortune's Fool. Rest in peace, War Prayer.
Yeah.
Shout out Fortune's Fool. And we were playing Philly, and Mike was like, oh man, I wonder if Sonny's going to come out. I'm like, oh, that'd be so cool. And he's like, you should just message him. And I was like, he won't reply. And Mike's like, apparently he like does reply. So I was like, okay. So I hit him up. I was like, hey, like coming to Philly, you coming out or whatever? And he actually was shooting Damnation AD that night, so he couldn't. And he goes, just let me know if you guys have any shows coming up. I was like,
and at this time you already had Toys for Tots 1 in the works.
And I was like, yeah, cool. You know, we'll hit you back when we're in Philly next. And he goes, or even in Toronto.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And I kind of like looked at like my band, and they're like, tell them about Toys for Tots.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So I was like, hey, would you be interested in coming out for this? He was like, absolutely, let's do it. And I was like, whoa.
Okay, this
cool.
is happening.
This is happening. And then, man, amazing person. He got here. I think he went and shot. He had to go shoot something the next day, like after the show. So he like flew in. Mike picked him up from the airport. They kicked it for a little bit. He got set up. He crashed at Mike's place because Mike lives very close to the venue.
Yeah.
Then he literally got up the next morning, flew out, went somewhere else.
Yeah.
And
dude hustles.
It was so cool having him. And then last year I was, we always want to. The whole point of getting people to film is because, I kind of want to show everybody what we have up here.
Right. But was it also a way to be like, maybe it will like promote the whole like show / fest in a way?
100%.
Yeah.
And I feel like the reason why we're talking about fest now is because we have those footage out. We had Steven up last year from 197. And just that footage, people are talking about it. I've played shows in the States, and they go, "Hey, don't you put on that Toys for Tots or whatever?"
Really?
And I'm like,
"Wow, that's awesome."
I'm like, yeah,
I am that guy.
Yeah, that's us.
Yeah.
So that's what it's about, getting the name out there for the show, for the event. It encourages people to come out because they want to meet. We had a lot of people that wanted to meet Sonny, that wanted to meet Steven, that just they've, I guess, talked online or been following their pages for a while. And yeah, it's really cool to have people like them willing to fly out here and put film our bands.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. I think like the whole idea of like doing a benefit show for any kind of cause, I think is super important. But I think the hack of having someone film that and distribute it is, going to that next level.
Yeah.
So you're going to be doing, let's get the light back.
This time it was you talking.
I know. See? So the proof is that it's not just you. Oh man, what's going on? So embarrassing.
Do a front flip.
Do a front flip. Fill the space.
There we
go. At least I just didn't want it to go straight black.
Yeah.
That was terrifying. So you have another Toys for Tots 3.
Yep.
Do you have a date for that already?
It's looking like December 4th or 5th. Preferably the 5th. It's a Saturday if we're going to do it at a festival.
Yeah.
I've already reached out to a couple bands, and yeah, it's slowly coming together.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get it, together earlier than later, just because I'm going to have a kid and that. And I don't want to be, added more stress. So yeah, hopefully we're going to try and make it a fest. Might hit up Scoped Exposure about coming out.
Maybe that would be super fun.
And yeah, honestly, I go to Snow and Flurry, or I watch LDB videos or United Blood or FYA, and I kind of think like, why doesn't Toronto have something like this?
Right.
Which we used to. We had Not Dead Yet.
Yeah.
Which I don't think they did last year.
Yeah.
And then we used to have a thing in Ottawa or Gatineau called Heartfest, which was really cool. But unfortunately they stopped doing that.
Yeah.
So I'm
Streets Ahead up in
it became
Ottawa.
So it basically some of the people from Heartfest, Lance, good friend of ours, yes, he was he did Streets Ahead, and I'm kind of just like, I see all this stuff like we should do something like this in Toronto, but it's hard. It's hard. Hard for a lot of bands to want to come up here. Mm-hmm. So it's.
But I hope that the videos that you guys have accrued are almost like things that you can use to showcase. Like, this is what we did the first year. Mm-hmm. These bands played. It's like, oh yeah, like that. I like that band. Or people are going off for Sedition and throwing around nunchucks or whatever. I do want to play it. So I do hope that it's cool to see the growth of that, and for it to go from a show to a fest is very, very inspiring.
Hopefully,
so that's awesome.
That's the plan. Fingers are crossed. We already started working on it, so we already started discussing it. So
sick.
Yeah,
cool. Well, for people to have, because now we're a little bit out of order, but for people to have updates about Cold Shoulder, Toys for Tots, and you, what's the best that people can keep up with you on social?
I'd probably say I don't really I just have Facebook.
Yeah.
But our band at Cold Shoulder TO, Instagram, Twitter, and then our Facebook, just Cold Shoulder or Cold Shoulder TO. I don't really know how Facebook works. If you search Cold Shoulder,
Cold Shoulder will come up.
Probably find it.
You'll figure it out.
Not the song by Adele.
Don't get it twisted.
And so that's probably the best way.
And announcements for the fest will probably come through the band.
Oh yeah, we do it all. Is basically as soon as it's locked in, I make the event page and then the band posts it.
Yeah.
Because that's our kind of thing.
Awesome.
So keep checking social media.
Yeah.
Toys for Tots, record,
Cold
all that fun stuff.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing it in this space with the light switches off, and let's head to the gig, I guess.
Cool.
Shout out Enemy of God, Anti-Up, Born Without Hope, and
Bar Down. Yeah.
Yeah. Super excited for all those bands. That's it.
Cool. Thanks
for listening.